There's a case in India which is really disturbing. Um, Another lynching. This case, a young Muslim man who was suspected of stealing something, but basically his ordeal was videoed, lasted about 7 hours. He died later in a police station. This occurred in Jharkhand, and the victim was Tabriz Ansari. He was accused of stealing something, but Um, what can one say? Basically tortured for 7 hours, forced to chant Hindu slogans. And this is the report from Al Jazeera. There's different sources. This is just the one I'm using for now. Indian police say they have arrested 11 people over the torture of a Muslim man who later died of his wounds in the latest suspected lynching in the country by Hindu vigilantes. A 10-minute video shows Tabriz Ansari, 24, being beaten by a group of men last week over accusations he had carried out a burglary in Karsawan district in Jharkhand state. Tied to a pole, Ansari is also forced to shout Jai Shri Ram, which translates as Hail Lord Ram, a slogan increasingly used by Hindu far-right groups according to the footage which has gone viral. Kartik S., a local police chief, told the AFP news agency that two police officers have also been suspended over the handling of the lynching of Ansari. I assume this relates to the fact that he later died in police custody. Oh god, this is even worse. The villagers beat Ansari for nearly 12 hours. 12 hours. Absolutely monstrous. I feel stunned even reading that. Rahul Gandhi has called this a stain on humanity, and the issues being discussed on NDTV. It's being debated. It's absolutely irrefutable that this sort of extremism has increased under the Modi premiership. And I think Modi can do a hell of a lot more than he's doing to maybe not completely stop it. I don't believe that one man can completely stop this happening, but at least it would send out a message if Modi was a lot more vocal in his condemnation. At best, he makes half hearted sort of condemnation. I don't believe it's enough. And India as a whole, frankly, needs to be more honest about this problem. This is an example of that. On Monday, India rejected a US State Department report that said religious intolerance and violence had increased against minorities in India under the government of the Hindu nationalist Bharatiya Janata Party led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. They're in denial. The US Religious Freedom Report stated that there had been growing numbers of attacks by Hindus claiming to protect cows, which is considered sacred by Hindus, since 2014 when Modi came to power. Let's be clear, India has never really been, honestly, a completely peaceful society. It would just be ridiculous to claim that it was. Since independence, over the last 70 years, there have been sporadic outbreaks, pogroms, religious fueled sectarian violence. Now, this is not to smear all Indians as racist bigots, of course they're not. I believe India is a great country, but this sort of barbarism shames India. And of course, it happens in Pakistan as well. What happened to Mashal Khan, the young man accused of blasphemy about 2 years ago, that was absolutely disgusting as well. Both countries have a serious problem with this, but there is a difference in one area. Pakistan is a conservative Islamic country, so you sort of expect that to happen in a conservative Islamic country. India models itself as a secular democracy where religions flourish and it's a melting pot of religions. Yet it is irrefutable there has been a rise in this far right Hindu extremism. So I think several things need to happen. Indians generally need to recognize there's a problem. All reasonable Indians need to call it out and say we need to get a grip on this. I'm sure many are, but the depth of nationalistic sentiments in India right now are such that moderate Indians have to tread carefully, lest they be accused of not being patriotic. That's the sort of atmosphere that's developing under Modi. And this is starting to expand now beyond India. There was that occasion when the Hindu extremists threatened to bomb UK cinemas if they screened the controversial Bollywood film depicting a kiss. So we should absolutely show no tolerance to far right Hindus who want to expand their toxic views outside India. But India itself, I think, can do a lot more. Okay, these people have been arrested. That's the right approach. And I hope they get severely punished. But, what I'm talking about is years behind bars. But what I find a bit galling is there are still some Indians who love to point the finger, particularly at Western countries, over so called racism. There have been studies showing that if you ask the average person, would you be happy with a relative being with someone from another race? The results are interesting. It's predominantly Asian countries that generally take more of a percentage of a hostile view towards that, whereas Western Europe and North America tend to be pretty tolerant in that regard. India comes pretty much near the bottom of those countries where data is available. So I think India really cannot lecture other countries about tolerance until it starts to get some grip on this problem. Rahul Gandhi is right, it's a stain on humanity. I think that we should take a hardline position on this, say we are easing aid until this sort of problem starts to be tackled. Or at least, if not aid, because that may just affect the poor, which is maybe not the right approach. Instead of aid, perhaps trade deals. You know, we understandably need to take a hard line on China, and there's ideological differences there. China's a totalitarian state. The cruel irony of this is India is the world's biggest democracy. I mean, at least it's being discussed on media, Indian media. That's one thing that China won't do. So I give India credit for that. It does have a free and vibrant media, but this is happening more and more often. I cannot imagine the sheer terror this young man went through, the physical pain, but also the fear. Absolutely monstrous. These cards, these thugs, these animals who done this, they're nothing but criminals, sick criminals who need to be put away for a long time. This is the response of a BJP spokesperson. After the attack on Ansari, Jharkhand Minister CP Singh said in a press conference on Monday that such incidents should not be politicised and linked to BJP and Rashtriya Swamyan Sevak Sangh, a Hindu separatist organisation that wants India to be defined as a Hindu nation. That's his first response. Where's his condemnation? Where's his recognition that this is a brutal, savage attack? I'm tired of these Hindu right wingers making excuses and not taking some responsibility. I mean, it's monstrous. And if this was an isolated case, that would be one thing, but there have been similar cases in recent years. This does shame India. And final few words. No, I'm not smearing all Indians as racists or bigots. India is a big country, 1.3 billion people. There are many open minded and tolerant Indians, of course there are. But just as the United States had to confront its dark past, its Jim Crow era, India needs to confront things like this that are going on today. Today. And the sad thing about this young man, apparently his father, was a victim of a similar lynching 15 years ago. So you can only imagine what his mother and sisters are going through. It's absolutely horrendous. So justice must prevail. The rule of law must prevail. The ringleaders need to be arrested and severely punished. And I know this isn't easy. I know there's issues of police corruption. I know dealing with a corruption in a country as big as India is not straightforward. But at the very least, if the man at the top, namely Narendra Modi, was a lot more vocal about this, at least that would give a narrative that this is unacceptable. It won't necessarily stop the problem. But if it came from the very top, at least it would show his heart is in the right place. Horrendous.